at the float property and how it works with div tags. So again, I've got a blank HTML document here, and I'm going to insert my div tag. And I wanted to show you the insert panel, which is right over here. I'll go ahead and pull that out. Here it is. Oops, got a couple extra here. Let me close that. But anyhow, if you come in here, you'll see that right here in the common category, and you can see there's quite a few different categories here, but in the common as well as layout, you will find a insert div tag button. And if I push that, it will create the same name as what you saw with using the insert layout object div tag menu choice. But anyhow, here I am at inserting a div tag, and I want to insert at the insertion point, which is just here at the very first line in my document. You can see my cursor is right over here, placed after the body tag in the code view. So I'll go ahead and keep that setting and click New CSS Rule and immediately apply some CSS to this div tag. I'll choose ID as my selector type. I'm going to call this left div. Just to point out, you need to have all selector names as one word, no special characters, just type it in, and I tend to like to name my selectors for both ID and class names that make sense, like left div. This is going to be a div tag over here on the left. And I will apply this to a new style sheet file for this exercise. I'll say OK. That will open up the Save As Style Sheet dialog box. Sorry, my machine is moving a little slow. I'll go ahead and call this my second style sheet. And I want it to be in my root directory, so you can see I'm not really in my root here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Site Root, which will take me right into my div tags local root directory. I'll go ahead and save this in there. I haven't saved my file yet, so I'm getting this message, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and say OK to that. And then let's immediately go or as soon as we're done here, we'll save this document. And again, I'll go into my background. I'll choose a background color. And then in my box category, I'm going to set the width of this to be 320. And I'm going to apply a float of left because I want it to float to the left. And then I'll go ahead and add a border, solid, actually 1 pixel, and a color of black. And I'll say OK to this. Oops, didn't take my black. There we go. I'll say OK to this. Double check what I have here for the insert div tag. Everything looks good. Left div, add insertion point. I'll say OK. And notice that here is my left div. Now I'll go ahead and type in that this is left division of the design. All right. Now I want to go ahead and insert another div tag, and I'll go through the menu here, choose div tag, and here I want it to be after tag, and I want it to be after the left div tag, and it's going to create the code right underneath this div tag that we have in our code view. Again, I will set up my CSS for it. It's an ID. I'm going to call this one middle div. I want it to go to my external style sheet. I'll say OK. And again, I'll set up a background color and a border. There we go. And then back to the box, I want this to be a width of 320. And then for the float, I'm not going to choose right to have them float or to have this div tag float to the right, but I'm going to go ahead and choose left again. And because this one is floated left, and then I'm adding a middle one that's going to be right here in the design, it will float left too, but because this one is first in the code, it's going to butt up to the right of this left division div tag that we have right here. So I'll say OK to that, double check myself, say OK, and notice that here's my middle div, and I'll go ahead and type in middle division of design. And then again, I'm going to insert yet a third div tag and put it to the right of this middle div. So again, this time I'll use the insert menu and click the insert div button. And again, I want this to be after tag, and the one I want it after is the middle div. I'll click my new CSS rule and apply that with an ID selector. I'll call this right div. It's going into my style sheet. Say OK. Again, set up a background color, a border, and then I will go ahead and go into my box category. I want the width to be 320. Oops, 320. And again, I'm going to float it to the left, not to the right, as you might have thought, but to the left. And I'll go ahead and say OK to that. Double check myself, everything looks good, say OK. And here is the div tag off to the right of all the other div tags. And I'll go ahead and call this one right division of design. And notice that in this demo, I use the left float for each of these. And because they occur in the code one after each other, they will actually butt up against the other div tag. So it's the left div, middle div, and right division tag. And you could have done that with the right float as well. It didn't have to be a left float. This could have been a right float, right float, right float, and you'll get exactly the same layout that you have here. But I wanted to show you that instead of the right and the left, which causes one to float to the left and one to float to the right, you can use all left floats or all right floats, or a combination of left and right. You just have to know which direction they are going to be positioned, either left or right in your design. Okay, well that's it for this demo. Thank you for